Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, on this Thursday. Welcome. Glad you are here, ready for some biblical, theological, and worldview questions. All the fun we're going to have, and it will be a blessing. Hey, on Thursdays, we do normally a Bible study on Thursday night. Tonight, we're doing a little bit of a history study. I tried to start it last week, and I just lost the voice, and that didn't work. So it'll be tonight. Tonight we're going to be talking about evangelicalism. How did neo-evangelicalism come to be? Come join us tonight. Be some interesting stuff, and we'll go really in this one. It's a sweep, virtually from Martin Luther up through Rick Warren. How's that? And we'll have a good time and some fun with that. Before we get started on today's questions, let's start with today's moment of evangelical garbage, because as you know, I, your author, your host, and the author of Evangelical Garbage, How Evangelicalism is Confused, Manipulative, and Downright Dangerous. What a wonderful Christmas gift. Today's moment of evangelical garbage comes from some of the newer translations of the Bible. One of them might be the best-selling translation, used to be anyway, I haven't checked recently, but might be the best-selling non-King James translation there is, held in the hands of many, many preachers out there, and it is absolutely garbage. That is, that so-called translation of the Bible is garbage. Get rid of it. I'm going to show you why. In one verse, I am going to show you the NIV is unacceptable as a Bible for anyone. I don't care if your name is Billy Graham. It needs to be discarded today, immediately. By the way, I'm going to go with the Net Bible, too. You know those scholars down at the Dallas Theological Seminary that put together the Net Bible? Based upon this two verses, really. We're going to compare two verses. Based upon these two verses, it should be trashed, burned, spit on it first, and then get rid of it. It is an utterly worthless document. The Christian Standard Bible, owned by Lifeway. It is not Christians. It's not a Christian standard, and it's not a Bible. Get rid of it. I'll show you today. We're going to do this based upon, let's go with John. I tell you what, I think I'll back up and go with Mark first. We're going to go with Mark. What should we say? 14. What verse are we in? Mark 14:50. 54. Let's try 54. Not 54. Okay, I'm going to start with the John passage there. How about that? Because I know where that is. John, well, there it is. I got some notes right here in front of me. It's Mark 15:25. Mark 15:25. In Mark 15:25, I'm going to put some scripture comparisons up here for you. It is small print, I recognize. But in Mark 15:25, it says, it was the third hour and they crucified him. NASB sticks with that, third hour when they crucified him. ESV sticks with it, third hour when they crucified him. NIV, it was 9 in the morning when they crucified him. Net, that's the Dallas Theological one, it was 9 in the morning. NLT, it was not, New Living Translations, it was 9 o'clock in the morning. CSB, it was 9 in the morning when they crucified him. Now, I'm going to say all that's right. It was the third hour, which was 9 in the morning. I am going to say you are going to be a special kind of stupid if you go ahead and say 9 in the morning. It is 9 in the morning. but it's not your job to interpret. It's your job to translate, and the Greek words say that. And if you don't do your job of translating, instead you say, "Oh, let me interpret, you're going to look a special kind of stupid. I understated it. Now, let's go. That was Mark 15:25. Let's go to John 19:14. Where, not 19:14, we want John, John 19:14. Okay. It was the preparation. It was about the 6th hour, and he said unto the Jews, "Behold your king." This is Pilate. "Hey, Jews, behold your king." About the 6th hour. NASB, about the 6th hour. ESV, about the 6th hour. NIV, it was about noon. Pilate said to your king. In case that didn't sink in, let's look at the net. The Net Bible, Dallas Theological Seminary, the brilliant scholars there that are stupid, says it's about noon. Pilate said, "Look, here's your king." NLT says it's now about noon. "Look, here's your king." Christian Standard Bible, none of the above. It's about noon when he said, "Here's your king, your dead king, the one we put on the cross 3 hours ago. Behold your king." This is an utter failure of doing basic work. I'm not even going to ring the snarky bell because I'm not being snarky. I am not being strong enough that this is utter malfeasance in putting together a Bible. You ought to be ashamed. You ought to grovel and repent in sackcloth and ashes and say, "I cannot believe we did such a stupid thing," and there's no other word than stupid, special stupid. We had him crucified at 9 a.m., and about noon, Pilate presents the living Jesus, pre-crucified, to the king. Are they going to argue that was the previous day? No, they're not going to argue that. They just absolutely didn't do their homework. If they didn't do their homework to say, "Oh, look, we got a mistake here. We didn't do this right." If they didn't do it on such a basic thing, you should not be calling it a Bible, nor should you be using it as a Bible. So, to all you who have friends out there who use the NIV, or in a more scholarly way, they use the Net, because it's only scholarly, erudite preacher types that want to use the Net Bible. And so if you got some scholarly, erudite preacher types that says, "Well, the Net Bible says," send them this video. If there's anyone out there who uses the NLT, then I'm not sure that they would understand this video. The Christian Standard Bible, that's the it used to be the Holman Christian Standard, and the HCS. It's the Hardcore Southern Baptist Bible. So you could show this to someone who's Hardcore Southern Baptist, and they probably will say, "It's Southern Baptist, amen, as long as somebody's saved." So I'm not sure they'll understand it either. But the people who use an NIV, they've just been duped. That's all there is to it. They've just been duped. So show them this video and say, you can't have him crucified at 9 and presented pre-crucifixion at noon. Show them a clock next to it if you need to. That is today's moment of evangelical garbage. And now we're ready to take your biblical, theological, and worldview questions and have just a fun time with all of them and see what's on your mind today. As we got things going, Cliff's got his Java refill. He's ready to go. We got Vermont up there. God bless. Timothy, good to see you in Grand Rapids. Rhonda, we got Colorado. Not Colorado. Excuse me. I'm talking. Colorado's here too, but we've got Vancouver, isn't it, Workman? Did I get that right? Maybe not Vancouver. West Coast of Canada. Am I right there? Or am I mixing things up? I would have never caught that 3rd hour, 6th hour mistake. Yeah, they would not have. It would not have been a mistake if they had just translated. It's because they decided that everyone's too stupid, except for us, of course, that they made it 3 and noon. The issue is, are there not 12 hours in a day? Jesus says, that's John 11:9. Are there not 12 hours in a day? Wait, there's 24 hours in a day. That means there's 2 sixth hours. They went with one of them, and they got the wrong one. I don't think it was about noon. I think it's about midnight. But when you take away from the people their ability to know that you can translate this, and this is what the modern translations, even though NASB and ESV on this case didn't make the mistake, they often do the same thing, and that is they do the job of interpretation, and that makes me and you one step removed from the actual Bible. We don't want to be one step removed. I mean, you know, it's bad enough, I suppose. We don't speak Greek and Hebrew, so we have to use English, but this is why we need a very literal translation of the English. And this is why the King James is so faithful at bringing this about. Not doing the homework for you, letting you do the homework so that you're the one on egg on your face. But you and I don't mind it. You know, I messed up. I didn't see that one. But hey, when you've got, you know, what is it? It's not the Lockman Foundation, UBS, United Bible Society. When you got the mega funding of the United Bible Society behind you, that's a whole host of people. Somebody ought to be checking this. And clearly they haven't. So, there we go. Let's start this morning with Felicia down in Alabama. Good morning to you. I've read that in ancient Jewish tradition, Azazel is a demon to whom the sin-laden goat was dispatched as a symbol of eschatological victory over demonic forces. I'm going to stop right there a little bit. And let's both confirm and deny a little bit. I think the demon to which the sin-laden goat on the Day of Atonement, the scapegoat, put the sin on the scapegoat, you send him out, was dispatched. Okay, so the sin-laden goat was dispatched, not the one that was sacrificed, obviously, but the living one, sent out to a demon named Azazel as a symbol of eschatological victory over demonic forces. There may be, I'm going to say there's probably some Jews that hold it in that sense. I'm going to say in a very general sense, I think there's truth to what you're saying. In a specific sense, if you went to a particular rabbi, even a Hasidic rabbi or a good conservative rabbi, a good textual rabbi, probably they're going to say, well, I agree with you in general, but not in the specifics. I think you'd find a lot of them that would be out there. And by specifics, I mean, okay, a demon named Azazel. Some would not hold to that. Some would speak of Azazel as a place, and the scapegoat is taken out to the place. I've actually been to that place in the past. If I had enough time, I would go through and find some pictures of it for you. But some would say, okay, this is a place. Now, then some, and I would say probably the more textual of them, would say this is a symbol of eschatological victory, end times victory over demonic forces. This is a symbol that we win in the end. Now, others would not say that. Others would say, no, we just send the sins out into the wilderness. So you are going to have a little bit of variety in what is done there. But I tell you what, let's again go to one of my favorite Old Testament sites, and that is Chabad.org. And let's just search as Zell. It pops up here. And see. Now, the in Chabadism, Chabad is a particular brand of Jewish interpretation. They do tend to be a little more mystical than some other brands. So we might find this Azazel demon kind of tradition in here. Let's see here. I tell you what, let's go down to this one, the Jewish knowledge base, which is going to be I take that back. It's going to be a bunch of articles in the knowledge base. So we are going to skip back there so we don't have to read all of those. Let's try this first one and see, okay. Let's just start. Well, let's start right here. It's understandable in the regime of animal sacrifices that sacrifices would be especially required on Yom Kippur in an effort to placate. Notice that they don't mind saying God, but they do not print God. Because in saying it, you can't go back and desecrate it. But in writing it, someone could write, a word that starts with a D, something like this, afterwards or something. So that's the only reason they skip that, is just in an abundance of caution not to desecrate. So they don't mind saying it in an effort to placate God. But sending an ignorant goat into the desert to somehow carry away our sins, it's unsurprising that nowadays the nowadays term scapegoat, which the poor goat sent off to the desert, personifies in ritual history, Azazel gains sympathy. Now, that was the question. I didn't read all the question. Let's go right here. The scapegoat is merely the most striking symbol in Leviticus, as it represents not only the sins of the individual, but the sins of the entire nation. If I were to try to paraphrase the rationale of Torah, I would say, how lucky is this goat who is able to achieve atonement for the entire Jewish nation? Finally, a word about the goat that was sent to Azazel. I think he's going to take it as a place, but let's see. The ability of the goat to atone for the sins of the Jews seems not only symbolic, but also much too easy. What prevented the Jews from sinning all year long and relying on the Azazel goat? The Talmud addresses the question and explains the goat only atones for those people who have first performed the necessary steps of teshuvah, repentance process. The goat is merely the symbolic conclusion to the process in which the Jews saw their sins cast over the mountain. He's taking this as a place because Azazel comes to this mountain out in the wilderness that the goat is tossed over. In Judaism, symbolism is important, but it is not a replacement for the real thing. Now, his response is what I would understand most commonly the Jewish tradition to be, more so than Azazel is a demon and it's given as a picture of eschatological victory. You might be able to find that somewhere. I just don't think it's that common of an interpretation. Let's go on to the next rabbi's answer. The scapegoat has been the laughingstock, fodder for scoffers since time immemorial. The Talmud states My statutes you shall keep, and these are things that Satan laughs at. Abstaining from eating pork, from wearing chatnez is polyester. The disshuing of the husband's brother, purification of a leper, the dispatching of the Azazel goat. Lest you say they are nonsense, it's therefore written, I am the Lord your God. Okay, so he's saying, hey, people are going to laugh at this. That's why God said, I am the Lord your God. This is what you shall do. Now, Talmud already singles out the scapegoat from amongst the sacrifices as a potential source of derision. Indeed, even many of the biblical commentaries question the meaning behind the Azazel goat. Here's one rabbi that calls it shocking. Nevertheless, while in other times and societies, many Hebrew scholars' question was dismissed with the laws of Torah. Let's see, this is, I was going to see if I could find more about. Nachmanides explains the Azazel goat was actually a bribe. Okay, I don't see anything there about, again, about the demon. So I think let's try, just if we can find one here. I'm going to put Azazel and demon together. And here's an article that seems to have both. Let me find demon. The second suggested cryptically by Ibn Ezra, Rabbi Ibn Ezra. He's the one, by the way, who, very famous rabbinical writer and poet, wrote the words, "Come grow old with me, the best of life is yet to be, the last for which the first was made, and I forgot the rest." But those famous words. Ibn Ezra, suggested by Ibn Ezra, explicitly by Nachmanides, is that Azazel is the name of a spirit or demon, one of the fallen angels referred to in Genesis 6:2, there it comes again, similar to the goat spirit called Pan in Greek mythology. This is a difficult idea, which is why Ibn Ezra alluded to it, as he did in similar cases, by way of a riddle, a puzzle that only the wise would be able to decipher. He writes, "I will reveal to you part of the secret by hint. When you reach 33, you will know it." Nachmanides reveals the secret 33 verses later on. The Torah commands they must no longer offer any of their sacrifices to the goat idols to whom they go astray. Now, Azazel, notice he says, on this reading, is the name of a demon or hostile force, sometimes called Satan or Samael. The Israelites were categorically forbidden to worship such a force. And it'll go on through a little more. But then here's a third interpretation. So it goes at least through 1, 2, 3 interpretations. This is a particular interpretation. Now, I want you to notice, even this, they make a little bit of textual connection. So if I'm reading this correctly, you've got the part about the demon going to Azazel. 33 verses later is they must no longer offer their sacrifices to the goat idols. Make this connection. Now that's a little bit mystical. Even this particular rabbi seems to be saying, not so sure about that. So I guess I give this as a word of warning. Back to the question, I've read that in ancient Jewish tradition, Azazel is a demon. Anytime you read that, just know that Jews are not a monolithic group. So you can almost always say, I bet there's some Jew that believes that. But that's true about a Baptist or something like that too, you know. Now, let me go on. So Felicia talks about this tradition. goes more in line with this belief is the inclusion of the proper name in numerous, but I think you'll agree, inferior translations of Leviticus 16:10. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll stop right there, and since I have the translation comparer up on the evangelical software, we'll just look at Leviticus 16:10. The goat on which the lot fell to be the scapegoat shall be presented alive before the Lord to make atonement with him and to let him go for a scapegoat into the wilderness. This is our key right here, into the wilderness. Now, NASB says the wilderness. ESV says into the wilderness to Azazel. Now, I think the problem is they did both, which is very poorly done. Azazel is either the wilderness, translated, Azazel, wilderness, or it is a specific name. When you put into the wilderness to Azazel, that gives more clarification or more insight, shall we call it, than the Bible actually gives. I think you have to, if you're a translator, dear ESV translators, if you're going to be a translator, decide, are you going to translate or are you going to interpret? Do one or the other, do not do both. So if you're going to say into the Azazel to Azazel, dumb, you need to make it into, you can say be sent away to Azazel, or you can say be sent away into the wilderness, which is the interpretation, the translation of Azazel. Now, you can leave it a proper name. You could just say, send him to Azazel. That leaves the reader saying, okay, I don't know if Azazel is, somebody's uncle, or Azazel is a place, or what is Azazel? I don't know. Is it a fast food joint? I don't know. Send him to Azazel. But the reader at least can do the interpretation there. Here you're saying Azazel is maybe a demon, or Azazel is a place in the wilderness. I'm not sure. Okay, into the wilderness. NIV got this one right. Net went send him away to Azazel into the wilderness. Did the same ESV stupidity. NLT, when it is sent away to Azazel in the wilderness, same thing, the people will be purified. CSB, sending it into the wilderness for an uninhabitable place. That, honestly, I'm going to go with that's the worst one. Because that is just pure interpretation. The question is, what do you do with the word Azazel? Now, let's go on. Okay, translations of Leviticus 16. The King James translates the single word Azazel into the phrase, to be the scapegoat. Do you believe that's superior than the ESV method? Absolutely. Now, I do want to check. I was taking Azazel to be wilderness. Let me just double check this here again. What was that? I've lost my point. Leviticus 16:10. Yeah, I should have known that. Okay, so let me back up just a little bit. Azazel and wilderness is not repetition. I had Azazel as the word for wilderness, but I should have known it's Bamidbar is the word for wilderness. So Azazel is the word for scapegoat. So let him go for a Azazel in the wilderness, for a scapegoat. Now, if we go back and pull this up again here, scapegoat, send it to the wilderness as a scapegoat. Nasby's basically right. Send it to the wilderness to Azazel. Okay, so we've got what do you call that? I'm the English teacher. Luca, what's the word that defines movement going towards a preposition? That's the word, right? Preposition. I knew I could talk it through. Thanks for your help there. He just had this foggy look. For a scapegoat or to a scapegoat. NIV. Into the wilderness as. Sending it to scapegoat into the wilderness. Sending it into the wilderness for an uninhabitable place. I just think CSB, again, they get the booby prize. This is the worst you can do on it. I like the King James philosophy of saying, we are translators, we translate. Because they would say, what does Felicia in Alabama? She doesn't know the word Azazel. What's she going to do with it? We got to translate it. What is it? The way the King James read doesn't totally, but effectively removes that idea of this is a demon out there. No, he becomes the scapegoat. And the word has even become, again, as was implied in one of those articles, has become part and parcel of the English language coming from this Jewish story, the scapegoat. So I think what we've got here is that it's a translation philosophy that I think does poorly. You know, just because we don't like to leave things to, we like to turn under every rock. Let's go back to Chabad here for a moment. And if you go learning and values and then down to texts and writings and then down to Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible. And we're going to go in the Torah. Our book is going to be Leviticus, and we're going to look in chapter 16. I want to see two things. Especially, I want to see in verse 10 how this modern Jewish English translation did. How did they put it? They said in verse 10, okay, for the he-goat upon which the lot for Azazel came up shall be placed while still alive before the Lord to initiate atonement upon it and send it away to Azazel into the desert. Okay, so again, I backed up and retracted, in case you didn't catch that I was saying Azazel and wilderness was repetitive. It's not. So the question, is this scapegoat, send it away to be the scapegoat, or is Azazel? This opens the possibility, their translation opens the possibility for it to be, hey, Azazel is either a place or a person or a thing. Now, the he-goat upon which the lot for Azazel came up, this goat drew the lot. The lot is for Azazel. What is that? For the scapegoat? Yeah, you drew the scapegoat lot. I think is going to be the most solid interpretation on it. But that's the first thing. I wanted to see what the modern Jewish translation did. By the way, I don't always think this modern English translation of the Jewish, of the scriptures, I don't think it's always the best one. It's not the best one. It just gives you some insight into what does a modern Hebrew mind do with it. Now, I also want to go here and show Rashi's commentary and go back down to verse 10, see what Rashi has to say about this. And looks like he's got 2 notes while still alive, and to initiate atonement, but nothing about Azazel. He does not mention that, so no insight given there. I'm gonna hold with it's a minority Jewish interpretation. I think the majority interpretation would be he's the scapegoat. He drew the scapegoat one. Is here you are, and you go out to the wilderness. The second most popular probably would be that Azazel is a place in the wilderness. Now, we have the question on which of these is superior? Felicia and I would agree that King James is superior. But does let's go back here. Our issue is scapegoat. Should we use the word scapegoat as the translation of Azazel? King James, NASB both use scapegoat. ESV, this is NASB 95. You know, it gets updated every 30 minutes, so they may not be there now. ESV goes Azazel. NIV, to be the scapegoat. Net, Azazel. NLT, the scholarly from Dallas Theological Seminary, they just mix it up. Scapegoat by lot. But then they come down here, Azazel in the wilderness. Same verse, same word. What are you NLT people thinking? Or are you? Do you think there's a possibility they were smoking weed when they did it? I'm just trying to come up with theories. Christian Standard Bible, uninhabitable place. I think you're better if you're going to do. Let's say you reject King James and NASB, which I wouldn't, but there ESV is going to win the prize because at least they just say Azazel both times. You don't know what Azazel means, but that's not our problem. NASB and King James both go scapegoat. What is the strength of scapegoat as the translation of Azazel? I suspect pretty strong. This is one of those, I'd want to dig in a little deeper, and I would want to say to the King James translators, how did you come up with scapegoat? Now, we might look and say, okay, the Bishop's Bible came up with scapegoat. Okay, well, how did you do it? Or maybe it was the Geneva Bible. Okay, Calvin, and those back. How did you do it? Where did you guys come up with it? What was your thinking? My guess is it's an unbelievably strong argument for scapegoat. And that argument, for some reason, was discarded, unfortunately. Thank you. Let's see. I note that there was an alert to raising someone, that perhaps you had a question that did not get in my question box. I'm running back through here looking at it. If you're new with us, if you put the word question first, that helps me to see that. I'm not seeing it, but I'm going to put Luca. Just check those chats and see if you can find a question by. Do you see it?
Yeah.
What is the question?
Does the Son, Jesus, submit eternally to the Father before the creation?
Okay. Does the Son submit eternally to the Father before creation? And the Son is specified as Jesus. So we are talking about Trinitarian issues, right? Does the Son submit eternally to the Father? Hey, Isaiah, good to see you. Anyway, does the Son submit eternally to the Father before creation? I think that there is a little bit of a challenge with the word submit I want to bring up first. We use the word submission to imply almost a greater degree of authority. And I think that's a misunderstanding of the Trinity. We want to put the Trinity into first, second, third place. And I don't think we can. I think that we would have to, let's take our body, soul, and spirit. Does my spirit submit to my soul? Does my, and I don't know, spirit is breath, spirit is the words that I speak. Do they submit to my soul? Maybe, because you could say, okay, the soul is the mind, and the mouth, the words that go out, it's just doing the thing that the mind told it to do. So the spirit is submitting to the soul. But I think we would have to say, no, it's really kind of all one package. As a matter of fact, there's a body aspect of it too, because to get those sound waves out there and that breath going, I got to use my lungs, I've got to use my vocal cords, I've got to use my mouth and my tongue. So which one is superior here? Is it the mouth? Is it the moving of the sound waves that's going to actually make that noise? Is it the soul that's going to think it up at the in the beginning? I think we would have to say, wait, I'm not sure submit is the right thing. I need my mouth to submit to my soul. I need my spirit to submit to my soul. It is all such a package deal. So does the Son submit to the Father? Well, the Son is the body, the Father is the soul, the Spirit is the mind. They cannot work against one another. They are a totality. The Lord our God, the Lord is one. So I'm afraid, if we go into, okay, who submits to whom and when do they do it, I think we're separating those out as individualities. When, in the body, soul, and spirit analogy, there's certainly a distinction between, say, the body and the soul. But which let's just go a dichotomy in a moment for body and soul. Which one is Randy? Is it the body is Randy or the soul is Randy? Well, if my soul leaves my body, then yeah, people will, they'll put me in a box and they'll come by and say, oh, there's Randy. There is Randy. My, he looks so good. He just looks like he's sleeping. He looks so good. Nobody's ever seen me sleeping except, a few people. He looks like he's sleeping. I slept once in 1972. It was nice. But the point is, then someone else would also go by and say, oh, that's not Randy. Randy, he's up in heaven. His soul is up there. So which one is Randy? Well, Randy's the package deal. So the same when it comes to the submission, I almost think we're creating a question that is based upon our experience of human interaction, of separate people coming. Somebody has to submit to someone else. And it's a question that in that sense is not fair and doesn't work. Thanks. I forgot who that was. At something. I appreciate that question. At Raising Blindian, perhaps? I'm glad you're here. Would love to hear more from you. Thank you. Okay, let's continue here. By the way, Raising Blindian. I always love to know where people are from if you happen to be listening live still. Let's go down to the Cucamonga question. Rancho Cucamonga, California. Michael says, is Michael the Archangel called that name because his main mission is to watch over the Jews and they have the Ark of the Covenant? I don't think so. Because it's a different word. It happens to work in English. But it is arche in Greek, which has to do with priority. I'll use it in English. It is the architect. The architect has to do with tecton, building, and he's right at the beginning of the building. This is where you go before you bring out the bricks and sticks. Arche in that sense of Michael, the archangel. It's unfortunate that we have a number of homonyms there together. Thanks. Michael in Rancho Cucamonga. Got a number of questions here. Rhonda in Missouri, is it possible that Cain did not have a wife or wives? Genesis chapter 7, verse 7 is the reference given here. Let me pull that up. Sorry, I wouldn't sit there. Now I am. Okay. Genesis 7. Noah went in, and his sons wives with him into the ark because of the waters of the flood. Genesis 7:7 says Noah and his wife and his sons and their wives. That does not mean all of them have to have one. It just means a son's wife. Therefore, Cain uncovered his father's nakedness. Now, Cain, of course, Canaan is the grandson. Shem, Ham, and Japheth are the son and the son's wives. And therefore, you said Cain, I'm assuming you mean Canaan. I guess we would have to say, okay, we would have to bring that to Ham. Is it possible that Ham did not have a wife? And his son's wives? No, it's not, because I just remembered in 1 Peter, find me the passage in 1 Peter, says there were 8 of them total. 1st or 2nd Peter. And that would require that each of them had a wife. And I think that would solve that. So technically, Genesis 7:7, you're right. I think Genesis 7:7 could leave the door open that we don't, but it is 1 Peter 3:20, which says, sorry about that, I gave you that little buzz. That was not your vibrator chair going off. Oops, there we go. You were already looking, which sometimes were disobedient when once the long suffering of God waited in the days of Noah while the ark was preparing, wherein there was few, that is, 8 souls were saved by water. So I think by that we would have to say they all did have a wife, if I interpreted all that correctly. Thank you, Rhonda. And let's go to Jennifer. Excuse me, I'm sorry, to Janet. My software program here is glitching a little bit, and so I'm having a hard time scrolling through these. Okay, Janet. Janet, 3 names. Good to see you over in London today. South of London, excuse me. Do you call that, well, let's see, you're southwest. I remember that the southeast is called like the southeast, southeast. I'll get it, southeast. In North Carolina, a southeast is called a barbecue. But you must be more in the southwest, right? Popular evangelical word Shekinah has a female image. I heard was a female goddess. Do you agree? Google says in Kabbalistic imagery, Shekinah is represented as Malkut. I believe that Shekinah is actually a Hebrew word. We often put the word glory behind it, but it is not. Find me a passage that has speaks. Ask where the Hebrew word Shekinah is underlying a King James passage. So it is in the King James. We're going to find out here in just a moment. In the King James, it's going to always be translated. Once again, some of these names get transliterated by modern translations, and thus the Hebrew word Shekinah comes into the English lingo. And I wouldn't be surprised, even predating English, if there's not someone who took that Hebrew word Shekinah and made it into, in their mind, some sort of female goddess. Certainly is a possibility there. But let's, in fact, even Kabbalistic imagery, Shekinah, the Kabbalists, which are mystic Jews, they could take their Hebrew word, turn it into some kind of a goddess, and then others pick that up through the centuries and carry that out. What do we have? Exodus 40:34. The cloud covered the tent of the congregation, the glory, right here. The glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Moses was not able to enter into the tent of the congregation. He abode there. And the glory of the Lord. Now, Shekinah is the word. Let's do some comparison. Once again, we've been doing lots of scripture comparison. Let's look at Exodus 40:34 in the various translations. By the way, I think most of you know, but in case you're new with us here, I reject all of those other translations, but it's kind of insightful sometimes to see how they did it. So the glory of the Lord. We're looking at the glory, NASB glory, ESV glory, NIV glory, NET glory, NLT glory, and CSB glory. Okay. Where do we have dwell? The other
one is Exodus 25:8.
Let's look at 25:8. Okay, that I may dwell among them, Shekan. I tell you what. Let's take the Exodus 40:34 and check that underlying word here and do some work. Exodus 40:34. Okay, that is not Shekinah. So the other Exodus passage was 25:8. Shekan. There's another. Look in Ezekiel for Shekinah. We're not quite there yet. Sorry. As we do some research right here, Ezekiel or Isaiah speak. Let's try Ezekiel 9:3. Okay. Still not there. We're going to work on it and see if I can find that Hebrew word Shekin or Shekinah. Looking at one thing here. No. There is a connection with dwelling and a connection with glory. Let me say that normally we attach the word glory to Shekinah. The Shekinah is a visible glory, a manifestation of glory. Now, I would not be surprised that some take Shekinah as a goddess, and that goes back into ancient history. In that, but we think of the Shekinah, the pillar of cloud, the glory of the Lord abode. It has a dwelling. It's related. Carries through there. So in the Jewish Encyclopedia, Shekinah the majestic presence or manifestation of God which has descended to dwell among men. So, as Luca was saying here, it's related to dwell, but it's really the presence more than to dwell itself. And it gives us some of the words here as God dwells in the temple. Since the Shekinah is light, those passages of the Apocrypha and New Testament which mention radiance, in which the Greek text reads doxa, refer to Shekinah, doxa, as in like doxology. So the glory of the Lord. Number of things. That seems to be a fairly decent article here, by the way, that goes into the nature of Shekinah, appearances of the Shekinah, those upon whom Shekinah rested, to whom does Shekinah appear, the Shekinah as light, and it goes, that's in the Jewish Encyclopedia, jewishencyclopedia.com, if you want to go look up the word Shekinah, Shekinah, would be, I would say, a decent understanding there. Now, again, though this doesn't appear to say it, I would not be surprised at all if there's not plenty of people out there who've taken that and made weird things out of it. So, excellent. Okay, I am out of time. Hannah, we'll get your question in tomorrow, if you don't mind that. And I've got some other questions there too, I think, that I perhaps did not get to and will want to get to. Would love to see y'all tonight, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, as we talk about how neo-evangelicalism came to be the king of the hill in American Christianity. And that'll be a joy to look at. Hope you will join us for that. You can ask your questions 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at askthetheologian.com. Go ahead and stick that in there now. It'll be there for us tomorrow. Till then, God bless you, and we'll see you soon.